Hi, Zodi here, and I quickly wanted to make a little video about the recent changes in update 29, specifically talking only about the racial changes, why they are good, and why I think they have struck a perfect balance, and also why this is the perfect thing for Elder Scrolls Online to go forward in the future. Now, let's bring the UI up the UI, and we can stand up, stand in front of the brazier, and look at the stats. Yes, and let's look at the racial skills here. We are High Elf, and of course, High Elf is one of the most controversial changes now in the update 29, because out of literally nowhere, High Elves can do weapon damage now. They are apparently quite strong with physical damage now. Martial damage, that is. And a lot of people are asking, oh my god, why? Why is that happening? And to understand this is you have to see the situation before this update. High Elf was effectively the only choice for Magicka DPS. It was the only choice really that was accepted in raid groups that were pushing scores, and so a lot of people opted to do that. A lot of people were actually feeling pressured to opt for High Elf. The same went for Stamina DPS. It was just Orc or go. Orc or leave. Something similar with tanking, where actually only Nord and Imperia were accepted, and something also similar with healing. Basically every healer in a trial group was Breton, because of, well, Bretons were the healers for the sustain. Right. That kind of narrow-mindedness is actually, well, was a very bad thing for the community, because it limited just a lot of people out of those trial groups and out of pushing scores, because they just did not feel like playing on a High Elf. They didn't like the Orcs' tusks, or that High Elves have pointy ears, or that Bretons have high up noses or whatnot. I mean, it's understandable, and in an MMO and an RPG especially, there should be a complete freedom of choice when it comes to race. And what we see now in the current update, in update 29, we will see now a really new balance that actually, well, balances out all those outliers that were making only a few races really strong and the others really bad. And that is a very good thing. Now, specifically here, that elemental talent passive, they did the same with Orc. So we can see the damage dealers, well, High F gets weapon damage, Orc gets spell damage. Both are now viable for both sides, Magicka and Stamina side, to do damage. And at the same time, but the outrage only focuses on Orc and High Elf, nobody really talks about that Dunmer has that passive from the beginning, weapon and spell damage. Really doesn't sit well with me. That might be lore backed, but nah, not really. The same actually goes with the physical resistance from the Nord passive. A lot of people would just state Nords have been nerfed into nothingness. They were just nerfed to death, but that's just untrue. They lost, I think, 1,300 armor, physical and spell resistance, and that's not that much. You can easily get that I mean, it's just one line of physical resistance. People like to moan, and especially with Nord, you can see that while bringing that outlier into line, you actually make all the others, the other races, now viable for tanking. It's really nice, and at the same time, Nord is also a viable option for soloing, for that little bit of more mitigation as a damage dealer, because at the same time the Nord does not have to go out of its way to get a little bit more mitigation to actually survive some boss mechanics, where the high-end damage glass cannons will have to struggle in the next patch in this update 29, because that at the same time is also happening. And while everything is changing, the perfect balance with all the races has been, well, with one or two exceptions, has actually been struck. The type we are playing our races and our characters will certainly change, but in this case I think that change is really good. The balance has been struck, and you can actually see that by, well, you see the same passive on 3 races, so it is there, right? And yeah, like I said, the balance is that what will eventually let this game survive another 10 years, maybe, hopefully, and we will hopefully be all enjoying our orcs, our bosmers, our not just Bretons, maybe even Redguards, our Argonians, our Khajiits, and that is a really good thing. There should really not be racial discrimination, neither in the real world nor in a RPG. That was that. Thanks for watching and have a good night.